Hello, everyone. We're bringing you a Metal State game between Attuned and WRA Amaryllis. Lots of spice in this game. Nauri, what do we know about the two teams tonight?
Well, both fairly new teams, and that's always interesting to spectate because you've got all of these new players, some new, some that have been around for a while, and it's how they find their footing and get used to one another in a brand new competitive environment. Attuned has very recently been made, as in like this month kind of thing, and they've got players from a few different teams. They've got players from Amaryllis, they've got a player from Evo, they've got a player from Rebellion, and so they've made up this brand new team, and they've been doing all right. They won their first game of the season. I think their second game was unfortunately a forfeit, but overall it looks like they've been doing quite well. And on JSG Mutiny, they haven't been doing quite as well. They've been struggling a little bit. We did cast one of their games earlier this week, and it seemed like they were having a little bit of trouble synergistically, but hopefully they've had some time to rally together, get those practices in, and yeah, hopefully we'll see a different Mutiny tonight.
So with the Amaryllis and Attuned game now, we're looking at a team that's actually been formed by two former Amaryllis players. How do you think the dynamic between those players having left the team will feed into the game tonight?
I think that it always creates a little bit of a friendly rivalry, you know that this person is from a team that you were on previously, and I believe that these are really friendly people, so it doesn't turn into that kind of like nastiness or like over competitiveness. It's going to be a lot more fun for them to kind of pit themselves against each other, I think. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do because we've got a lot of female players. Obviously, WRA predominant, an all-female lineup, and Attuned, I think, is about 50% female. So that's, I think, the thing that I'm loving the most about this matchup is the fact that there are so many female players. We don't often see so many get fielded. So I think the fact that some of them have played together before it's going to work in WRA's favor because they've been around that little bit longer. But what I also know is that some of the players on WRA are being forced to flex this evening. We've got an off-tank and a support player that are playing DPS because they're missing some of their players, and that's, you hate to see it. Playing a role that you're not familiar with can really create some dissension in the team. So hopefully they're going to be able to rally that together. But yeah, I think overall we're probably just going to have to see how these teams interact with one another.
We have two players on Attuned also coming from previously from Evo Esports, Baby Pangang and Ben the Living, was Duos Corp. I'm not actually sure what his name's under currently, but he's formerly been a 4K player, and I think his season high is up in the high 3.8s. How do you think having a player of that kind of rank in your lineup affects the kind of mentality that your team approaches games with?
Hopefully, look, it's possible for you to have like a get carried mentality where you feel like this person who's such a high SR is going to create these huge openings for you, right? And it can happen. If you are able to put enough resources into that person and create space for them, then absolutely they can pop off and they can do some incredible things. But I hope that that's not the attitude that they have, because if you make a mistake, it's so easy for the enemy team to capitalize on that and to take advantage of it. The way I see it, you've got to enter every game with the same mentality, and that is we can lose. Every game is losable, right? So hopefully they're not putting too much stock into this one player, because one player, this is a team game and there's no such thing as a solo carry. Yes, you can have one person that pops off and creates more opportunity for you to perform better as a team, but you can't be relying on this one person to carry you through games. So hopefully they've thought of that, they've considered it, and they have some plans in place that don't just involve relying on this one person.
Yeah, hopefully. He's listed here as an off-tank player. In terms of having a high-ranked player on your team, is off-tank maybe one of the roles that it's going to affect the way your team plays a little bit less so? As off-tank generally is something you're quite reliant on your actual structure for, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's the thing. You can't really say that one type of role has a bigger or lower impact than another. You have to remember what each role is there for. Your tanks are there to make space. Your DPS are there to DPS, to kill things. And of course, your supports are there to support the rest of your players. It's not just about healing. So if it was a DPS player, then it creates that opportunity for a DPS to absolutely pop off. But an off tank is actually quite a pivotal member of the team. They are there. It's their job to peel for the backline. It's their job to scout out for flankers. It's their job to support their main tank. So in fact, having a high SR off tank could possibly be a little bit more valuable than a DPS. I know I just said that you can't really rank them, but if I absolutely had to, I would say that having a really experienced off tank could do more than having a really experienced DPS player.
Well, moving on to WRA for a moment, we're looking at their team sheet for tonight. They've got Sonora and Mooncake on their tanks, both of whom are new to Overwatch. How do you think that in a kind of team fight will affect how the game flows tonight?
That's definitely a disadvantage. I just mentioned how important it is to have your off-tank player that knows exactly what their job is and what they're supposed to be doing and peeling for the backline and all of those things. And the fact that these two ladies are so new to the game means that they won't be as comfortable in their roles just yet. For them, obviously, they've played in comp and they've got a pretty good idea of how the game works. Obviously, they wouldn't be joining a team. You don't join a team completely blind after having the game for a week. But I think it definitely is a little bit of a drawback for them, because the synergy and understanding of compositions required is something that a brand new player might not be as familiar with as players that have been playing for a long time.
So with a fairly inexperienced tank line and 2 DPS flexing, do you think we're going to see an Attuned win tonight, or do you think experience wins out and the team that's been around longer will take it for the game?
Jeez, that's now you've hit me with the big questions, because so WRA already on a back foot here. They've got 2 brand new players to the game, plus 2 players that are being forced to flex onto roles that they're not familiar with. I think based on that alone, Attuned are going to edge this out a little bit. I think they're going to take the match tonight.
Cool. Well, we're currently sitting with the teams in lobby waiting for game to start. So it should be a spicy one.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think the first map, it looks like it's going to be Nepal, which I love. It's one of those maps where you can see a lot of interesting compositions. Yes, we've seen a lot of goats recently, and yes, most people are pretty bored of that now, but I think we might see some interesting stuff. There's potential for Farah and Ash and even May. If they roll out with a May goats, I'm going to be ecstatic, because that's currently one of my favorite compositions. So I'm really keen to see what they're going to roll out with. And we've actually been seeing a lot of interesting stuff coming from the ZA scene recently. Compositions that you wouldn't have thought of previously. Something that I mentioned in my last cast with Trinok, innovation. South Africa is so well known for their innovative comps at this point. I'm really keen to see what's going to come out from these games.
And I think especially from Attuned, WIA may surprise me too, but I think especially from Attuned, finding their feet as a new team, finding their way into the local scene, I think we're going to see some interesting things coming out of their side.
Yep. As you say, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. We're in lobby now. We're just waiting for the teams to finish getting ready. Not quite sure what the holdup is here. Donnie's gone for a smoke, I think. So we're just sitting here waiting for them to come back and be completely ready. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see some. I think it's Shrine is the map where we saw the World Cup strat with Farah and the Hanzo, because I love that type of strategy where you have damage coming in from 2 different angles, and it really forces your opponents to split up and draws their attention away from a potential main fight area, which is what's happening on the point. So you have these 3 avenues of damage. You've got the Farah on one side, the Hanzo on the other side, and you've got your tanks and your supports on the point. And works so effectively to split up the team. So I'm hoping to see some of that as well. But other than that, I suppose it's a bit too difficult right this second to think of what we might be seeing.
I mean, we may also see a little bit of the classic Sanctum boop comp, the Orisa and the Hog looking to make use of that giant hole in the middle of that map.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's on Ilios though.
That's also used on Sanctum.
Oh, I see. Not the circular hole, the other hole.
Yeah, the giant, the weird H-shaped one next to the point.
Yeah, the weird one. Yeah, the Orisa Holt hook combos are so good. Not just on those maps where there's a sheer drop, but just for displacing an enemy. You know, you use the Holt to pull somebody out into the open, then you hook them into your team and you just destroy them. And just like that, you have a massive advantage. It's a 6v5. So I've really been enjoying watching that composition as well, especially if you time it right, because that's all about communication. Knowing exactly when that Holt is going to come through, when to throw out that hook. It's a very coordinated type of strategy. So if we do see it, I really want to see that. That'll really show how coordinated these teams are, right? That will prove whether they've been practicing on their communication and listening to each other and watching where the enemy are and things like that.
And I think especially with these two teams, one that's got a very shaken up lineup tonight and one that's very new as a team, we'll see a couple of these gaps opening up from both sides where, you know, sometimes the communication doesn't quite click and that opens up opportunities for big plays from the other side.
Yeah, that's right. And I was saying it earlier about exploiting mistakes. You know, if one of the members is out of position, or if you do a big misplay, it creates a lot of opportunity for the enemy team to capitalize on that. And it's little things. If you've got a Reddit Lucio running around basically feeding, if your Lucio is chilling in their back line, or if you've got an Ana frontlining, or if one of your DPS is on a random spot on the other side of the map instead of with the rest of the team. And I'm talking like a soldier, you know, not like a tracer whose job it is to be annoying in the back line. Then yeah, that can open a lot of opportunities for mistakes. And we've actually seen that in games recently where you have people, you'll have your attacking team so split up that the defending team, it's so easy for them to just pick you off one by one. So hopefully we're not going to see too much of that this evening. I'm really looking forward to seeing how coordinated these teams are, especially in light of all the things we mentioned before. You know, people playing on new roles, people being new to the game, both teams being fairly new. Not the teams being new so much, but like WRA have had some some player swap ups recently, roster swap ups, that's the word, and then obviously Attuned being a fairly new team. I want to see how well they synergize.
I mean, to start with, WRA winning the synergy battle with the icons. We've only got one outlier on Attuned, but you know, if that's anything to go by, we'll see a little bit more organized play from Attuned, from Amaryllis, right?
Imagine having synergized icons means you win. Wouldn't that be nice?
I think we would have won every game last season then.
Yeah, you guys were super synergized with yours.
Cool. It looks like the game's about to start.
Hell yeah, let's get into it, boys. Nepal. I'm very excited for this. Oh dear. Okay, one of the players has a mic issue.
And it's the guy that has the wrong icon too. So it's just how it happens.
In JK, we haven't started yet. Debate. Let's see here. KitKat is taking a break. Rest in peace, KitKat. We had a good run.
I think the interesting thing we're seeing out of Attune's lineup currently is that Babi Pangang is coming in for Combo Kaiki today. And Combo Kaiki usually plays as a projectile DPS for them. So he's usually a support sub. His top hero is currently listed as Zen, though he also has Ash and May on that. So that may go to you were mentioning earlier, may be a possibility, but also it may be a possibility that they're bringing in 3 supports so they can just run goats.
That's very possible, because their other option was obviously Tryptamine, who is an off-tank player. So, I mean, they could have gone either way with this, I guess, depending on what compositions they might want to be running. It's unfortunate that Combo's not here. She is the captain, and missing your captain is pretty huge because your captain is usually your main shot caller. Not usually, but I've seen it a lot in the ZA scene where the captain tends to be the in-game leader. So I think that that's probably going to create a little bit of a dissension, especially because the captain is also the person that tends to keep the team together and keeps them calm and keeps them focused. So not having her around could be a bit of an issue for Attuned. I suppose we're going to find out now.
Well, here we are. We're on Shrine, so maybe we'll see a little bit of the comps you were talking about here. Teams still assembling currently, but let's see what we get out of them.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait a couple seconds before we see what comps they're picking, and I don't like that Blizzard changed this because I would really like to be dissecting these comps. The little bit of time that they give you before the point opens is just not nearly enough. But they will be shown in just a few seconds. Let's wait for that to tick down. All right, here we go. So we've got from Attuned, sorry, not Attuned, from, yeah, White Rabbit, that's the one. Reinhardt D.Va, interesting tank composition there because you usually run a Zarya with the Reinhardt. It's just because Reinhardt isn't divey and D.Va is, so the synergy isn't great for those two tanks together, but they could make it work with the Soldier and the Hand Zone, of course, double main heals for a little bit of extra pocketing. And from Attuned, we've got Reinhardt Zarya, nice. Then they've got a dive DPS, which is Tracer to create some dissension in the back line with the Lucio, so they will get to the point first, and that's a huge advantage for them. And then, of course, that May that I was so excited about.
We're seeing WI coming here a little bit slower, but they also have that range damage, which maybe gives them a bit of an advantage in the early fight. Cryptic poking at their backline a little bit, and Buffy Pangang's now separated half their team. Their Soldier gone, their Reinhardt stuck in the back. Fight's looking a little bit dicey already, and it's only right into it. Reinhardt's gone now, Zenora's Reinhardt getting picked by Bubbles, and now here comes up the other wall. That looks like Attuned are gonna wipe up the first fight.
And that's exactly what I was saying. You know, the fact that Attuned got points so quickly creates a huge opportunity for them because they got all the way to the other side of point, and all they had to do basically was defend. It wasn't an all-out brawl. They didn't reach the point at the same time and start absolutely smacking each other. They got to point first. They had time to set up their defense, and then they just held. And giving the enemy team that much time to set up is not a good idea. They should have been running a Lucio of their own to get to points so that they could possibly have had that advantage, or at the very least have been brawling it out.
Yeah, well, we see a Dragon Strike coming out from Dynamite now, which manages to separate four, but Bubbles hitting a huge shadow, just cleans up the fight immediately. Mooncake left alive as the last alive, poking at Attuned from the top there, but it looks like that shatter undoes all the work that Dynamite's Dragon Strike did to separate.
And that was really well played from Bubbles there, holding at this choke with the Earth Shatter. At the moment now, they don't have anything to warrant. Oh, I suppose they still have the ground, so they could still actually hold a little bit higher up here. For some reason, WRA choosing not to take that high ground, and I think that's a little bit strange. High ground advantage is so huge here, especially when you're running this Hanzo, and they've got the Pharah plowing some damage into the back line there, but unfortunately it's just not enough. I would have liked to have seen them take that high ground, but now
out comes the males. Just getting the Reinhardt and the D.Va for now, but that should be enough to actually just see the point through. Mooncake's D.Va jumping over the back line, getting onto points, but not really sure how effective that's going to be in the long run. We're seeing a lot of Attuned setting up in really high, strange positions and catching WRA out of position. We've seen Kit Kat sitting in kind of Reddity positions up on top of the high ground past the arch, and we've seen Babi Pangang actually setting up around the corner there. So what did Attuned do in that round that made it so difficult for Amaryllis even to get close?
Well, this is the thing. The onus is actually on Amaryllis here. They kept running it down mid. Attuned were holding that main choke so hard. If Amaryllis had just gone around, they would have had a better opportunity. They could have come behind and gotten to point in a different way, and they wouldn't have had to go through the Earth Shatter and all of those things that happened, and they would have forced Attuned to have to turn around and come back to where they are, and it would have given them a little bit more of an opportunity to actually do something. The strats that they're running at the moment are a little bit weird, and that's why they're not getting as much value out of it. And now here
on the
we are
second
on
round
that
here.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the point, the big weird H-shaped hole in the middle. WRA coming out with a Pharah and a Hanzo, and Attune coming out with 5 supports and a Mei.
That's interesting.
Well, the Mei immediately separating immediately separating 2 of Amaryllis's members, but not managed to get the fix. Cryptic takes out Akuni, and Mooncake takes out Kit Kat. Athena also falls off. Mooncake's mech is now gone. Fight's a little bit quite even right now, but it looks like Attune is actually taking the advantage with their very, very unorthodox composition.
Well, I mean, in a way it does work. Your Mei can work as somewhat of a tank, putting those walls up and blocking a certain amount of damage. And of course, Brigitte in this composition would basically work as like an off-tank / DPS. Anna, you can play DPS Anna, you can play DPS Moira. So I suppose in a way it does have its merits, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't run this strat. It's very easy to take apart. You just have to focus on one person at a time, you know? But it seems like White Rabbit are a little bit scattered at the moment. I'm not quite sure what to do.
Doname got a nice pick on the Mei to start off the fight, but it looks like they just aren't focusing down their targets well enough to be getting substantial like payback for the improved composition on a tune that they are running. They would be running something that you would expect to have more reliable results, but they're just not engaging appropriately in order to get that. So what do you think? What do you think they're struggling with here?
Synergy, really, coordination. Let me put it like that. They are running straight into a wall here. They're not focusing down targets. Remember, when there's this much healing, you've got to be focusing down targets. But they have managed to get 2 very important picks, and they've dropped the beat. So hopefully, this is their opportunity to turn it around.
Galtech manages to use her Valkyrie to get a big res on Bubbles, and now Bubbles sitting behind them, taking swings at their backline, and they seem to be just giving her that space. Again, it just seems that there's a tune coming in here, and they have just had so much sustain that WRA are just struggling to get any kind of result out of this comp.
But once again, it comes down to this target prioritization that I was talking about. They had 2 very good picks coming into this fight. They got onto the point, and then it was just absolutely scattered. You got to pick somebody, pick a person, focus that person, and that person has to die. You can't have half your team, like you can't have everybody split up and focusing down different people, because then you're going to have exactly what happened here, where Attune had the opportunity to get back onto point and win the fight.
And that's what we're seeing now. That's just a stagger in as the time bank's running out. Zenora getting picked by Kit Kat, Bubbles picking Athena, and Duesco picking Doname, and that'll be the Nepal map, going in Attune's favor.
Quite a dominant display here from Attune, and I think this is really just showing that synergy that I was talking about earlier. But it also just is a testament to Amaryllis dealing with the issue of having 2 non-DPS players on DPS. That's really not something you want to see. It creates a lot of dissension among the team, and it really ruins your synergy. Donnie got quite a few good pickoffs there. I was really happy to see that. Even got a headshot with the sonic arrow, which is always a fun one to see. But overall, it's just the synergy. Synergy is more than just understanding your players. Synergy is also understanding your role, understanding where you should be in relation to the rest of the players on your team, understanding what your job is in relation to the rest of the composition that you're running. And based off of that, WRA are just really struggling at the moment. Attuned, again, they've got quite a few seasoned players, and that's really shining for them. It's really showing up in how they play.
Compositionally, we're looking now going into either Dorado or Route 66. What do we need to see change from WRA to kind of, begin to make something of an impact in this game?
Honestly, again, they need to get their communication down. They have a real chance to perform if they just rally themselves together, make sure that they're calling out targets, calling out where they need to be. And sometimes call outs are as simple as just saying, if both of your supports are down, just saying supports are down, play passively kind of thing. Because if both supports die and the rest of the team rushes in, obviously they're going to die. You need to know when to reset. And that was another thing I wanted to point out, especially from Mooncake. When the team has died, don't fly onto point and attempt to do a back cap, because it's not going to work. You'll get maybe halfway, like we saw on the first map in Nepal, but then the team will get onto point and they will kill you. And then all you've done is stagger yourself and your entire team has to wait for you to respawn. If your team has died, pull back and regroup. Don't fly off on your own, because on top of the fact that you've now staggered yourself by being on the point, the enemy team staggers you as well. They get you out of mech and then they just let you run around as Baby Diva for a bit and then they kill you, and then it even extends the time that the rest of your team has to wait for you. So little things like that, the importance of resetting, the importance of good target callouts and target prioritization, I can't stress those enough, and hopefully it picks up a little bit now on the second map.
And heading into Dorado, we have a lot of high ground on this first point, a lot of opportunities to set up traps, similarly to what we were seeing from Attune in the first match. But it also gives us a lot of opportunity to see, interesting positioning, interesting kind of, as you were mentioning with the Pharaoh Hanzo composition that you wanted to see on Nepal Shrine. It gives us that opportunity to see attacks or fights going from multiple directions. And it looks like we're coming out with Attune running a dive composition with an Ashe and 2 main healers, and WIA running that Reinhardt Diva again, also with 2 main healers and a Pharaoh and a Junkrat.
I think this is also a testament to the fact that their tanks are so new. You'll probably find that they've been playing these 2 tanks, the Rhine and the Diva, for the majority of the time, and it's something that I've noticed with a couple of teams recently. They're not playing heroes because of a compositional choice. They're just playing heroes that they're good at, and that's something that they will definitely need to work on, increasing their ability on these specific heroes. They're running the Junkrat though and the Pharaoh, so that's a lot of spam damage but no focus damage, and that might not work out well for them, especially because we have Babi on this Genji, and it'll be so easy for him to just get into the back line.
Well, Akuni getting picked instantly by Cryptic. The Ashe getting immediate results on the Pharaoh there, and then he cleans up the Mercy as well. That already puts Amaryllis at a 4v6 in the fight. Mooncake now is trying to contest the Genji, but having to disengage to try and defend her backline now as well. And now the dive comes out from Attune, and it looks like they're just cleaning up this first site. Payloads are about to hit the bridge now, and that should be the end of this fight. Zenora being the last alive now.
Yeah, fairly simple, fairly quick fight there, and Akuni staying on this Pharaoh, which really surprises me, because they've got Cryptic on the Ashe and they've got Galtech on the Ana, and those are 2 heroes that can very quickly dispatch with the Pharaoh. So I think that we need to see Akuni swapping off here, because it's not going to work out, especially if Cryptic keeps hitting those shots like he has been. Hopefully they do make that swap off, but yeah, as you say, now we've got Akuni, Attune getting all the way to first checkpoint, and I see no sign of them stopping. Very weird things happening here with Winston diving into the backline with no support. Nice pick from Mooncake.
Winston now getting Mooncake as well. Mooncake in return. That puts it at a 5v5 currently. The Winston and the Moira going all the way around the map, and again it's a 3v3 on point currently.
Yep.
Another trade in the front with Viper Girl taking out Babi Pangang and Galtech taking out Zenora. Zenora getting rezzed though. So it actually looks like WA is holding the advantage in this fight, even if they're not quite able to get tuned off point just yet.
Yep, still holding on. Oh, and the Bob comes out, which is pretty huge, and very good placement of the Bob. They're not going to be able to actually deal with him straight away, so they're going to have to kind of use cover. So I like the way that it's been placed, and it does actually get a demech. So a lot of picks come through here that really will help them, in some weird coalescences coming out here. The fight's definitely already lost. I'm not sure why either of them coalesced.
Also taking res on Akuni in the fight that seems to be more than over, and then getting picked herself. Akuni just getting back, it seems.
Yep, that's another thing, guys. Ult economy and knowing when to regroup, as I said earlier, something really that they need to focus on. Don't blow ults if you've already lost the fight, and don't blow ults if you've already won the fight.
Nanoblade coming out here, immediately getting the Pharaoh. Now is in their backline basically uncontested, and point 2 will flip in the favor of Attuned now as well. looks like they're basically tearing apart their backline right now. Mooncake again overextended in their backline while the rest of their team is having to back up.
And yes, as you said, pushing quite easily, quite steadily through second checkpoint, and now they're going to move through these doors, and I mean, I can't even speak too much about the ult economy and what plans they might be having, because again, we've just seen so many ultimates get thrown out somewhat arbitrarily, and that upsets me a little bit. But we've got 4 ultimates for WRA, and they just used that tire, which does get a nice pick, so hopefully they'll be able to make a stand here.
Unfortunately, during the process of that tire, Donnie got picked by Babby Pangang, and that leads to the fight being a little bit imbalanced again, even if she did get that pick. But it looks like the dive from Attuned, even though it's very split up, very their tanks in multiple different places, it seems because of WIA's disorganization, that's actually turning out in their favor, because the 2 dive tanks are being able to isolate their targets.
Yep, working very well. And again, we saw Mooncake overextended there in like a really odd place. The self-destruct comes through.
Manages to get Kit Kat out of the coalescence.
Yeah, hopefully this is their opportunity to make something happen.
And again, just as it looks like WIA might flip the fight, out comes a Dragon Blade, gets a pick, out comes a Primal Rage, gets a pick, and here's a Nano Winston now that looks like it might clean up the rest of this attack. And there we go, Mooncake out of mech, and that will be the first attack. 3-0 to Attuned currently.
Yeah, fairly simple or fairly quick work here from Attuned. Really not having too much trouble. I don't know, WRA really struggling at the moment to get their compositions and get their synergy going. They've been running some interesting compositions with heroes that don't synergize well with each other. And I think if there's one piece of advice that I can give to them, it's to do some research into compositions and how heroes synergize with one another. Because it's one thing to just run heroes that you're good at, and it's something else entirely to run an organized composition. But again, I need to bring it back to the fact that they are running 2 players on roles that they don't usually play. I can't stress that enough, that is really a detrimental factor for them. It's making it that much more difficult for them to get any value out of this game.
Ready for battle.
But it looks Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I do have to give it to Attuned though. Their ult economy in these fights, just when it looks like they might be falling out of the fight, something big comes out, a Blade, a Ash, or a Bob, or Primal Rage, that kind of just turns the fight back into their favor, just as they look like they might be struggling to hold it out.
You're not wrong, and that's really, as you say, it's a testament to them, because they are not throwing ults arbitrarily. They are planning it out. They're thinking about it. Oh no, the fight's not going well, so we're going to use this ultimate, and then it works for them. Interesting defense here. We're seeing the Holt Hook potential with a Torbjorn, and Torbjorn has quite a lot of advantage here. And they've got the Brigida on the low ground, looking for scouting really to see if they do use that low ground. It looks like they're going to, so she's going to be... Oh my word, she's flanking.
Well, on Amaryllis' side, we're seeing a kind of Goats comp, not running any Brigida whatsoever. It's just the 2 main supports in the Mercy and the Moira, and then a Lucio. So what are we kind of expecting out of that?
I think that they're now trying to play to their strengths. So they've got Donnie, who is normally a support player, playing that support, but possibly going for more of a DPS Moira style. But it doesn't look like it's going to work out. I'm really feeling for WRA at the moment, because this must be so disheartening, knowing that if your full team were here and everyone was playing on heroes that they're actually really good at, that things could be different. So my heart goes out to them. But again, Attuned, they're merciless, and that's what you have to be in this game if you want to succeed. They're not giving an opportunity for WRA. They are playing quite well to their strengths, and it's working out for them.
Oh, here out comes the Bob now. Zenora actually charging in as the Bob is cast and getting picked almost immediately out of that. They seem to be leaving Bob to do his work a lot, and that seems, especially with the Goats, to be leaving a damage source uncontested while you're not actually able to take a hard engagement. Seems to be really detrimental to their bottom line.
Yep. they're really struggling here to get any sort of leeway, to get any sort of push. They have swapped onto that Zarya, which I'm happy to see, and they're almost at a grab. And a nice beat for engagement, but they kind of need to use it. They use beat, but they're still very passive. They've got they got the raise off on Donnie, so it's still a 6v6, and this is the chance that they need. That's another issue that I have here. They are very passive. They're just not hitting that double vicious.
And especially with goats, you would expect they would have to get in their faces and actually just get aggressive. And at the moment, it just seems like they're moving in, they're getting into the position. They actually took a nice rotation there. Looked like they might get into bubbles and actually threaten that bunker. And then at the end of it, Cryptic was able to get a pick. Then Duiscorp was able to come out behind with the whole hog, and the Nano was able to come out, and they were just able to clean up the fight.
Well, we do see that there's a potential here for a grab self-destruct, which could be just the opening that they need to start pushing this cart. That turret is up there causing a lot of issues though, so they're going to have to try and dodge that. And again, there's the Brigitte flanking in the back line. And there's just so much damage coming from every direction.
And out comes Buffy Pangang's Molten Core, and Zenora again isolated from her team as the Reinhardt. Athena actually jumping in to try and get the res and dying to the Molten Core again. The Coalescence now coming out. Fight looks like it may be already lost though.
Yes, definitely is. They've had so many people die here, and of course Zenora will go down for Dynamite. And now they only have 30 seconds. They've got the Earth Shatter and they've got a Graviton Surge. They threw out that self-destruct quite early on, so they don't have that combo potential anymore. And Mooncake once again overextending and getting taken out. They have to wait for her. I'm not gonna lie, this game is basically lost already. The fact that they have to wait for their diva, they're going to engage here 5v6, and they are going to lose this fight, and it's just really unfortunate overall.
Yeah. And out comes another Molten Core from Babi Pangang. That turret just giving him so much ult charge, and the previous Molten Core giving him the damage to just clean up.
See, that's something that Diva should have been dealing with. They should have dived that turret early on, get the turret down, and then again start with your target prioritization. They weren't focused as well as they should have been, and that was why Babi got ult so often, because his turret was completely uncontested there. I really want WRA to start looking at their ult economy and figuring out how they can use ultimate to the best effect, because they threw that self-destruct out with no real plan. I think Mooncake was kind of hoping to get like one of those crazy 3Ks and then her team would be able to push in, but that's not what happened, because they didn't use it with the grab. They just, threw it. What I can say is that at the moment, Babi even has ping issues. I think that's why he chose the Torbjorn, because the turret can just pop off and he doesn't have to aim or concentrate too hard. The ping doesn't affect him as badly, but yeah, still really feeling for WRA.
Well, looking on to the next map, they're now moving on to Hanamura. And what do you think are the important things that we're going to have to see in point one or starting at the Hanamura attack?
Well, point one Hanamura it favors attackers so heavily. So I definitely think that WRA are in the chance. But once they hit point 2 or point B, it's going to be a lot more difficult, because again, Attuned will have that spawn advantage instead of WRA. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more coordination there, a little bit more ult planning and management and economy. And I really hope they don't run that Pharah again, because the ceiling is so low. It's really really easy to deal with, even on a Moira. Because that skill ceiling is so low, it makes it even easier to right-click Pharah out of existence. So I'm really hoping to not have to see that. I think we might see a little bit of that Mei again, because Mei is fairly popular on this point. And of course, another strat that we've been seeing a lot of has been some of that Ashe, some of that Junkrat, essentially some bunker comp. We might even see some Bastion on this point, which I hope not, because I don't like that hero in a general sense, but it is a possibility.
Well, we're about to see Attune coming out in the attack first, and within the next 15 seconds, and WRA setting up for the defense. So looking at the first two matches, it's kind of been very weighted in Attune's favors. Do you think that's very much down to how their DPS have been getting the picks out in these first two games?
Honestly, it's a combination of so many factors. yes, Attuned are playing well, but WRA have had their issues this evening. And I think when you combine all of those factors together, you wind up with a very one-sided game, and it's super unfortunate. But I suppose it is a factor. That being said, Cryptic Water did really well on that Ashe in the last game, getting a lot of those dynamite kills in, getting some good pickoffs onto Akuni on the Pharah, and of course the Mercy there. So I definitely want to compliment that. And of course we saw Babby on that Genji doing a lot of work. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely talk up their DPS players, but don't forget, of course, the issues that WRA have been having.
Well, we're coming out here. We have Attune coming out with the Reinhardt Saya, and then they have a Mei of their own that's coming out with a Mei Genji. Is that maybe to counter the possibility of the wall isolating their Reinhardt here at the front?
Possibly, but I don't think so. I think that running a counter Mei is just... Like, Mei on defense here is really good because of that wall bait. Mei on attack is a bit of a weird one for me unless you're using a particular entrance strategy, which they didn't use. I think they're just using the Mei because it's these small enclosed areas and you can get a lot of value, especially with this AoE freeze that Mei has now. And of course they snowball onto point, and now they have an opportunity to snowball right through to second.
And here they are going, leaving one to cap and pushing the other 5 forward. Is this a tactic we should expect to see a lot of in ZA games?
Possibly, hey. It's difficult to say. We've been seeing a lot of Mei on these maps recently, so it could be that this is the new ZA strat, but I don't think so. I think this again comes down to just these players playing heroes that they're a little bit more comfortable on and working it to their advantage.
Well, Attune look like they're cleaning up here in the attack, getting 3 or 4 picks early on in this fight, and Akuni and Mooncake left alone on point to try and fight out. 6.5 minutes left in the time bank. It's looking a little bit grim for WRA at the moment.
Oh, Donnie with the pop-off, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Her team is not back on this point yet. Wow, Mercy, how did you...
Ooh, Athena stalling out the point, and Doname getting the double with the tire. Looks like WA may just be able to stall out this point for this fight. Kit Kat coming out with the sound barrier. And Bubbles getting the pick on Athena. Looks like this fight's not quite over just yet. Akuni has free aim on Bubbles, but coming out with the Blizzard and the Dragon Blade, looks like this fight's still on.
I mean, it's still going, and the fact, I mean, I've got to, hand it to Athena there, doing so well, managing to contest point and not dying, and that's a huge misplay from Attune. They should have killed Athena very quickly there, but then of course the Junkrat tire came out from Donnie, managing to get 2 picks and allowing her team to stay on point. That was phenomenally well played, and then they came out, and again I saw that the same thing where they were struggling to focus down targets, so that fight got drawn out far longer than it should have after getting 2 picks. But it looks like WRA are back and they're coming in for another engagement.
Baby Pangang getting a early pick on Doname there, and the Nano Ryan charging in and taking out Sonora. It looks like between that, the grab, the early pick, it looks like this fight now could be turning. But is it another time for another big bomb? Oh, another 2 out, but looks like it might just get on in time. And that will be the fight for Attune.
Yeah, it was a great tire to come through from Donnie there. Another 2k, but on point to contest once the tire had come out and got those 2 picks, and she had to wait for the animation to finish, and then she had to get back onto point, and the moment she touched point, she got deleted. So really well played from Attune here with a nice 5-minute time bank, and it's going to take a lot from WRA to try and match that.
That said, Donnie and Athena did come out quite clutch in the first engagement on point to just clean it up and give themselves an extra, or give their defense an extra minute and a half, which could prove vital moving forward if they are able to counter the issues they were having earlier in this game.
That's true. I mean, in this game, every second counts, right? So the fact that they did manage to shave that extra minute and a half is pretty big for them, but we're going to have to see if they are going to be able to push through Attune's defense here, because it looks like they're going to be running double shield with a Bastion and a Mei, and I don't know if WRA are going to be able to deal with that. They are running 2 dive tanks, so it looks like they might be running a dive composition, except with Athena on that Mercy. Oh, it looks like they're opting for the Symmetra strat to teleport straight onto point. Either that or they're just absolutely debating me, which is very possible. If they are going to be running the strat, then they need to be focusing down that Bastion very, very quickly. And I think it's going to be difficult for them. Genji is pretty good against Bastion, so hopefully Akuni will be able to take Cryptic down quickly, and then it'll give them the opportunity that they need to get onto point.
Of course, running against 2 barriers here means the dive is going to be crucial in actually getting to this Bastion to even start with. But getting onto him is going to be just as... making sure they get the pick is going to be just as difficult to task, given the massive cleave potential Reinhardt has in there, the extra shield that Duos Corp will provide, and the fact that, you know, maybe the Winston won't actually get the damage output that they need here.
That was quite unfortunate. They set up that teleporter and it got instantly melted by Bastion, and so no one was able to actually...
The other issue we may be seeing here with their engagement is that the big defense matrix nerf has come in just a couple of days ago, and they might not be used to running that into a Bastion yet.
Oh yes, that the changes came out just yesterday, in fact. Oh, but we do have somebody that has left the game. I think we have a disconnect, but the pause hasn't... There we go, the pause has come through now. Yeah, a lot of changes in the most recent patch. We saw the armor nerf, which is pretty huge. The nerf in damage to armor, which is, given how many heroes in this game have armor, it's pretty big. That added on to the fact that Brigitte's rally now expires after 30 seconds, and then of course there's the massive Reaper buff in lifesteal. So interesting to see that we've only seen Reaper very briefly on Dorado. I was expecting to possibly see a little bit more of him, but as you say, the D.Va nerf to defense matrix, the cooldown changing from 1 second to 2 seconds, could be causing a little bit of dissension for them. They're not used to it, they haven't been able to practice with it, and it takes a little while to get used to, especially given how important defense matrix is.
And especially considering they're running this comp now, in which, you know, their DPS isn't quite as Bastion countering as it could be. Like the Symmetra maybe encountering a little bit of difficulty trying to deal with the Bastion early on, and the Genji getting picked or getting countered here by the Mei. It might be difficult for them even to engage on the Bastion. The defense matrix nerf just making that a little bit harder than it already was.
Yep, I'm actually hoping that Donnie will swap off of this Symmetra, because once that teleporter strat didn't work, I felt like that was a good time to swap. Symmetra doesn't do much against this position. Symmetra, I mean, she's got her advantages, but against the composition that they're playing into, she doesn't really have too much that she can do. So I'm really hoping Donnie's going to swap off here. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for them to get any value. In fact, a Mei might even work a little bit better to wall off that Bastion and and shut down his line of sight, or possibly a Anna to get a good sleep dart or a good anti-nade, so that you can stop Bastion from healing himself. Because if he's healing himself and he's got Mercy healing him, that's a lot of healing. So that's definitely something that they need to possibly be thinking about.
If they don't switch off this Metro, they also do have the option of teleporting straight onto point and looking for the engagement from there rather than looking for it from afar, which is what we saw in that first fight.
The problem with that is once the teleport is on point, the same thing's going to happen with Bastion. He's just going to melt it.
Yeah, no, I suppose that's likely to be the case. Of course, there is the advantage if they do stick. They may also get that big 5,000 HP shield, which may give them a slight bit of an advantage. But we'll see in the coming seconds as the game is about to be unpaused. Mooncake immediately getting demeched as the game's unpaused and picked out by Babi Pangang. And their Symmetra actually still in the fight here.
Yeah, the thing that's really a bit of a unfortunate happenstance is, of course, KitKat having been disconnected means that he's lost all of his ult charge. And Mercy ultimate is pretty powerful, but despite that, they still do manage to win the fight. KitKat has to come all the way back from spawn, and regardless of that, they win that fight out. We see Donnie still on that Symmetra. I think the plan is possibly for her to build up her ultimate and then wall off the Bastion, much like what they could have done with a Mei wall, instead obviously using the 5,000 shield of Symmetra. But I don't know if it's going to be enough, and a nice wall comes through to isolate PK.
And we're seeing now from Mutiny that Farah that you were talking about earlier, but it doesn't seem to be having the desired effect, as Cryptic's able to come out with a nano tank configuration and just clean up that fight before it even has a chance to really start with WRA.
Now, rather unfortunate, and again the Farah right on the map, and we know that Bastion had a buff fairly recently that lowered his spray when he's attacking, so it makes it a lot easier for him to deal with a Farah. Farah was typically a fairly good counter to Bastion in times past, but now with Bastion's most recent buff, it's so much easier for him to deal with the Farah. So the Farah technically wasn't a good choice to have here. But Donnie's about to come up on that wall, so hopefully they'll be able to use that to their advantage. We do see... Oh, there's the wall.
The wall comes out, cutting across point. It doesn't actually seem to be cutting out the Bastion's line of sight very much at all. And you're going to see him doing a lot of damage to Viper Girl, which Bubbles then secures the kill on. And they're now just a Reinhardt on point with their Pharmacy and their Diva sitting off point currently. They're not engaging together here, which is another reason why this comp is just absolutely shredding them at the moment.
Yep, that's an issue. If you're not moving together as a team, you're not going to get any value. I think it took way too long for Zenora to swap off to that Reinhardt, especially because Bastion does absolutely shred Winston's shield. And of course, another configuration tank will come through. Ouch!
And there was the rocket barrage getting absolutely shut down by the configuration tank. And that's another ult that they're just losing here. They're just going into this last fight with just off a Diva Bomb, but no other ults really in sight of them at the moment, except maybe the sound barrier might come out. But they're running into a Tune's lineup that has 4 ults, and Donnie securing a nice pick on Kit Kat to start it out.
Ooh, nice Earth Shatter into the Blizzard. Yep, that's pretty much it. With only 10 seconds left, I think that this might be the end of the road for WRA for this game. And again, it's really unfortunate to see because they had so many issues, and I think if they'd been playing with their full roster, they might have had a better opportunity to rally through here and create it, do better. But unfortunately, that's basically what happens, and as much as it sucks, it's something that they hopefully will be able to deal with in the future. They now have an opportunity to review this VOD, check out what mistakes they made and where they can improve on certain things, and hopefully they'll come back stronger.
And here we see Cryptic just cleaning up the game. Cryptic and Babby have been absolutely huge in this game, cleaning up all 3 player games and having cards every single game. But they were just getting so many valuable picks for Attuned here. That's just, kept them out of sight of Amaryllis for most of the day.
Yep, and running that double shield was pretty huge as well for Bastion. Just being able to hide behind it and not worry at all about any incoming damage. Even when the swap was made onto that Farah, it didn't matter. He had a lot of protection. He had the Mercy pocketing him, and once he had ultimate, we even saw the nano boost come through. So Attune doing very well to rally around their DPS players and give them the space that they need to excel. Still a lot of things that they can work on as a team as well. I'm not going to take that away. They also need to work on things like target prioritization, ult economy. They did better than WRA, but I also saw some very needless ultimates come through. So hopefully they'll look at that, and hopefully WRA will fix whatever issues, roster issues they have at the moment. And in the next game, we might see a different team. Not literally, just that they've improved.
Yeah, Attune taking this one, cleaning through the 3-0 up quite quickly, and we'll see. I think they're a team to watch in that pool B of Open Division, but also their group of Metal State. The match they have coming up against Evo might be a good one to see, to get a barometer of where this team really is coming up against an experienced team that has the level that they know they're going to want to be pushing.
I think that's going to be an exciting one to potentially watch if we have the opportunity to cast it. But overall, I'm interested to see where these teams wind up in the coming legs. I think that there's a lot of potential here for them to improve. And hopefully by the end of this leg and maybe the next leg as well, we'll see some real improvement from them. So yeah, guys, keep it up, keep playing, keep working, keep grinding. That's what Overwatch is, right? It's a grind. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys higher up on the division list.
And hopefully we'll see all our viewers up on the comments list at 10 o'clock when we cast JHM and JSG Mutiny, who will be going head-to-head in a VSGaming match.
Hell
So
yeah, please.
take us out of the day.
Yeah, guys, come join us for that. That's also going to be a pretty good match. As Blur just said, 10 p.m. And yeah, we'll see you there.